So, Patricia, you've taught acting at Stanford for 30 years, and your book, Improv Wisdom, has become the go-to resource for some of the most creative minds of our time, including one of our favorite authors, Steven Pressfield, who says he cannot live without it. And we got to be honest with you, we completely agree with Steven, because reading your book completely transformed how we live our lives.
Yeah, I am the classic perfectionist overthinker. My friends make fun of me because I plan every single second of every single day. Like my Google Calendar even has when I'm going to the bathroom. and your book helped me so much to realize that when things don't go according to plan, I don't have to freak out. I don't have to start tweaking and become an anxious wreck. Sometimes those mistakes and mishaps can actually be the most beautiful things that ever happened to us. And so I love your book. I love this concept of the improv mindset. And I want to start by saying thank you. And I also want to start by asking you, in your own words, what is improv and why is it so much more than just a form of acting?
Thank you, Mike. It's an honor to be on your show. That's a great question, because I think in most people's minds, the word improv equals comedy, stand-up comedy, and you assume to improvise is to have a special talent that you're funny and you're fast on your feet and stuff like that. That definition for improv is also a way of describing it. What I'm interested in sharing is improv as a way of approaching life. Approaching everything. It's a mindset. Here's one way to describe it. Every morning, my husband and I do Wordle at the same time. And he's a logical kind of thinker. His approach to it is he has 3 words he always uses in the same order. And from that information, he gets what he needs to get the Wordle answer. Okay. It's the kind of logical framework.
Yeah.
Most of education is about that. I, on the other hand, decide that I'm going to see what word comes to me. Just the first word that comes into my mind each day is what I start with. And I play the hard mode. And the result is we both do pretty well. But it's a different, I trust that somehow the world, the reality, life will give me a word that I can use and work with. So an improv mindset allows you to trust reality, trust yourself, trust that what you need will appear. And so it's a way, a kind of a system in a way. You think improvising, oh, that's just anything goes. Well, it's not exactly right. Anything can happen, and your job is to wake up and notice what's there. Improvising is really about stepping up to life and being ready to see what comes your way and work with whatever is there as cheerfully as possible.
That's such a powerful way to live life. I have a question for you. How did you discover this concept of improv in the first place? What led you down this path?
It happened when I had the honor of getting a teaching job at Stanford in acting. And all of my students were absolutely brilliant at formulaic thinking and following a plan. If you gave them an acting role, they'd say, "What do you want me to do?" And then they'd do it. What they weren't good at is trusting or seeing what was there when they didn't have a plan. So I had this problem on my hands, classes with dozens and dozens of brilliant students, and trying to find a way to get them just to trust themselves and try stuff rather than get the correct answer. So I really didn't know how to do this. What was the strategy? And at that point in time, I happened on a gentleman named Keith Johnstone, who wrote a book called Improv, and he was teaching at Esalen, and I was there for something else, and I found his book Improv, and I discovered, wait, there's a way of looking at things. There's a way that by using these ideas and concepts that you can actually become better actors. Okay, so that started to work. I used these improv games and exercises in my acting classes, and I started teaching for the continuing studies for adults. And so in the adult class, I had Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and all kinds of interesting, bright adults. And after a couple of weeks of the class, a couple of people came to me and said, Patricia, these things that we're learning in class are applicable to everyday life. You should write a book. It was around 1980. And so I started writing the book. And as time went on, it just became really clear to me that the games we were playing about saying yes to whatever comes your way rather than trying to have a better idea had real payoffs. And the students would come back and say, yeah, I tried that with my wife. I said, sort of, yeah, to her all day long. Life just got amazing.
Yeah, that'll definitely work. I've tried it with my wife too, and I could vouch the same.
Right.
It's so funny that you say that. A few years back when we first quit our jobs, we wanted to try something to get out of our comfort zone. So we signed up for a week-long improv intensive in New York City.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and it was really, really tough. And we expected it to be. But one thing we definitely did not expect is what you're saying. These lessons that you're learning in the improv class translate so directly into everyday life, and they help you face these everyday challenges that you wouldn't really expect them to. So we just really loved your book for that reason. It distilled the lessons so beautifully into this everyday wisdom that we can actually use.
Yeah, and in the book, you distill it down to 13 maxims.
Right.
And we think that they're all absolutely incredible. But when we were doing research for this podcast, we saw that later on in your life, you were able to take those 13 maxims and bucket them into 4 core principles. And we're all about simplicity because we want people to really be able to take action on these things. So if you're cool with it, we'd like to go through these 4 principles, which you call the 4 A's of the improv mindset.
Right.
And we want to play a little improv game with you where we will just say one of the A's in the mindset and then just pass the baton over to you and let you run with it.
Ready.
Is that cool? All right.
All right. So the first A of the improv mindset, you say, is attention.
What? Absolutely. You see that? My cat just crossed the deck here. I'll pay attention.
That's awesome.
She wanted to be in the show. Well,
What's her name? What's her name?
her name is Tara. And I just got her 2 days ago because I had a sad loss of another cat. And that's another
sorry to
story.
hear that.
Sorry to hear. Well, Tara, welcome to the show.
Well, she wants to be a superstar. I might have to put her down. I not put her down, but put her on the floor. Okay. Attention. Okay, girl.
Cats are very good at awareness and attention.
They are. They're noticing everything that's going on. I am going to put her down so that I can talk to the people over here. Okay, stay around. Everything begins with attention. And if you think about it, what we're paying attention to is our life. If you're on this podcast, what's really going on in your mind is realizing that there's something you're worrying about that's going to happen this afternoon. Where your attention lies creates your experience. And I think we don't think about paying attention to what we're paying attention to. If I really start to notice the world that I'm actually in right now, I am speaking onto a computer screen, looking through the portals to 2 handsome men sitting somewhere else, that everything starts with attention. It's why improvisers can, if they're trying to make a story on stage, can start anywhere that they put their attention. But if they're trying to think of how to come up with something interesting, they're not really in the present moment, as you say, or being mindful.
Yeah, what do you say for someone like me who is the constant overthinker, who is exactly the person you're describing? I could be in this podcast, but really in the back of my head, I'm thinking about what I'm about to do right after this podcast. Do you have any practical tips or exercises that I can actually do to get better at this? Or is that question in of itself another like sign that I am just not being present in this moment right now? Like, is it as simple as like, just be present?
It's a good question, though. I think sometimes if you take a breath and try to kind of see where you are. Okay, what's going on right now? In fact, let's all do an exercise together. Close your eyes where you are just right now. Just keep your eyes closed while I'm talking to you. So I'd like for you to see if you can construct in your mind what's around you, where you're sitting, what you're looking at, what the room and the any visual objects in your field. If somebody said, "Now, paint me a picture of what's around you right now," see how much detail you can think of. Don't cheat or anything. Okay. All right. Now open your eyes and look around actually at where you are and what's in front of you. How did you do on the picture of what's around you that you were just trying to construct when your eyes were closed? Anything that kind of surprises you about the world that you're in?
Yeah, for me, I was definitely leaving out a lot of the details. It was very big blocks, but no details. I wasn't really paying attention.
Right. So, and you might say, well, it's not important that I'm paying attention to the cup that I've got and the iPhone that's here and what color is the lamp, etc. Maybe if I told you, now look at all the items in the room and we're going to have a quiz, you might do better.
Yeah.
But the point of that is that I think if we just notice where we are and to try to notice what we're noticing. An example of how to practice this is I go on a same walk almost every day up the hill behind my house and down. I've been on it hundreds of times. And each time I go, I try to give myself a different focus of attention. All right, now I'm going to notice the different colors of green on the trees and stuff like that. Now I'm going to notice numbers and see how many numbers I can see on license plates or houses or whatever. And I discovered that because the world is so diverse and so interesting, that each time I go and give myself something to notice, something to pay attention to, that attention gives me new experiences. Where you are right now is vastly interesting if you decide to pay attention to it. But most of us, me too, normal folks, are off in their heads, kind of worrying about the future, fretting over the past, being annoyed about that credit card that hasn't shown up in the mail yet, and all the people have got to call. So it starts with attention. And a lot of improv games are really about just seeing exactly what happens right now and responding to that. And so we kind of take a breath and kind of breathe ourselves into it.
Yeah, your story about going up and down the hill and noticing something different every time reminds me of something that my friend told me recently. So his wife moved here from Germany to New York. And when he was going around to New York and visiting all these places with her, for her, everything was so fascinating and cool. But for him, since he grew up here, it wasn't really anything special. But because he had this fresh perspective and like looked at things from this mindset of like, oh, this is brand new, as if like taking on her lens, everything opened up and was just so much more enjoyable and fulfilling. So I love this concept of like just taking fresh eyes to the same things that we see on a daily basis to keep things fresh.
That also reminds me of our nephews and nieces who we spend a lot of time with. They are the freshest eyes, right? Because they haven't been jaded by the world yet. And they notice the little details and ask those questions that we often just kind of put blinders onto. So that's a beautiful way to think about it, is like these fresh eyes and paying attention, which leads us to our second A, which is acceptance.
That's the correct order too. We notice what's going on, or notice what's in our mind, or notice, and then we have to accept it. Part of what gets us into trouble in life, I think, is always finding fault, always in a way going for what's wrong with the situation. I think when you think of Neanderthal man, we were programmed in a way to look for trouble that in order to survive. And I think that we tend in life not to accept, but to sort of hold off in a futile effort usually to control the situation. So improvisers agree not only to notice what's there, but to accept it. And acceptance doesn't necessarily mean liking something. It's different, because we think, yeah, you can't accept I could fill in the blank of a lot of stuff that's going on right now. But it means opening yourself to it and holding it in your mind, heart, life. And that acceptance is really key to get to the third A, which I suppose you're going to ask me about.
Yeah.
After, yeah.
Sticking on this one, which one of the maxims in the book really help with this A of acceptance?
I think paying attention gets you there, but it's probably one of my favorite maxims, and the surprising one in the book is to be average.
Can we talk about that a little? Because that one is really for us and our audience, which are kind of these overachievers, like constantly striving to be the very best we can. Being average is a concept that we don't really digest a lot. So let's talk about it.
Well, it's key.
She tips the cat again.
Right. The cat came up to weigh in on that. I think the striving for excellence, the striving to be the best. In fact, the name, BESTSELF University, I'd like to translate that into your average self, And what do I mean by that? It doesn't mean trying to not do something well, but it's about trusting that your ordinary mind is enough.
Wow.
That if the example I give in the book is about some Super Bowl came down to the very final thing, which was just a field goal kick, and if he made it, they were going to win the Super Bowl. And the guy just kind of, I've got to do the best kick in the world. I'm really going to make it the perfectest kick. And he screwed it up. And if he had just gone for, okay, I know how to do this kick. We all have that our average is really where our wisdom lies, not in some striving. We all have had the experience of doing something like an interview, going for an interview, and really trying to impress, trying to do our best. Of course, you want to do your best. I think if you just go and be yourself is enough. It's a masterful thing if you just let yourself do what's obvious. We have a gang on the coast where I live in California. It's called Bad Art Night. And we get together, we bring our supplies and art and whatever project we're working on, because we know we can do bad art, right? But it kept us there, right? And so we'll all do something, and it's quite remarkable how much a really fine work comes when you just are not striving or adding that anxiety to what you're doing.
Yeah, I can honestly say that just by doing this podcast, we've had to learn that lesson. And, you know, it's when we first started, it was like, we need to be our best. We need to show up. We need to have everything prepared and ready to go. And I think when we read your book and we started thinking about how we approach this podcast, that was one of the things that we took from it was, what if we just show up and be Mike and Nick, the people that when we hang out with our friends love? Because if we can be that with our guests, then we're just going to vibe. We're going to have a great conversation.
Absolutely.
So that was really big for us. So thank you. And I wanted to also just touch on, do you believe the yes and principle fits into this bucket?
It does. It does. So the rule that makes improv in all forms work is that you say yes, you accept whatever the offer is. So that if your partner says, nice looking cat you've got there, the improviser has to follow by accepting that and say, yeah, she's a gray-haired, and I got her from a lady who's moving to Tennessee. But someone might try to be clever and say, nice cat you've got there, and that's no cat, that's my wife. And to get a laugh or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So there's a way that if we agree to be agreeable and accept what, yes, nice cat you've got there, but the and part of it means I work with that idea and develop it and something. We don't just, nice cat there, okay, nice glass here. It's easy to generate ideas. In fact, this is how improv is so much richer than just brainstorming. In brainstorming, everybody has an idea, another good idea. But nobody is working with each other to take any of those ideas and develop them. So the and means take whatever is in front of you and it. Build on that. And you can take this into meetings and into the workplace and listen at something. We often listen to see what's wrong with the person's idea and say, if I did something else. We get the yes, but. So you have to be careful not to be a yes, butter.
But me and him have so many creative meetings together, trying to think of YouTube titles and thumbnails or whatever it may be. And there are times where we yes but each other and our egos clash, and it's my idea versus your idea, and we end up frustrated and produce the worst possible ideas you could ever imagine. And then we read your book and we're reminded of this yes and principle. And even if Nick comes up with an idea that I really don't think, if I'm thinking, is very good, I still say yes, and what if? And I just build on it, and it just starts to build the energy. And that energy building is such a key part we found from our experience. And it happens even with my wife, too. It's the same thing. If we have a conversation at the dinner table, it's yes, and it's just that simple. It's like a life hack. It really is.
It is. Instead of, as we listen, we generally listen to someone to think whether we agree with them or not, and or what's wrong with that idea. So the yes and asks you to look at what is right about whatever is going on. Find the kernel of truth. Find the kernel that you can work with and build on. It makes you a lot more fun to be around if you're a
100%. That's actually the perfect transition into number 3, finding those kernels, finding those gifts. The third A of the improv mindset is appreciation.
That's the heart. Really the heart of it all. If attention and acceptance is the mind of it, appreciation is the heart. There's at any given moment in time, whatever the situation is, we're receiving more than we're ever able to give, if we start to look around and notice it. And so that sense of always looking for, in the things that happen in our world, who's responsible, and in a way, there are people unknown who are allowing the technology that we're using right now to talk to each other. I don't know their names, but I do know they're real people that have created this Riverside studio and who are making the electricity is working in my house. We're easy to notice when things are not working and cause blame, but the improviser appreciates and gives credit all around, says thank you a lot, and is noticing the gifts that are there. The Safeway where I have groceries have a self-checkout thing, and sometimes when you're checking out, you need help. I don't know how to do lemons or whatnot, so you press that, and there's a little voice that comes on. Please wait. Help is on the way. Please wait. Help is on the way. And I realized that at almost any point in time, help is on the way. I was just talking to a friend who got in an accident, and he was in the hospital. He says, it's just amazing, all the people there that were helping, if we really notice how much we are supported, how much we're receiving. So appreciation shifts the attention from yourself, look onto others and the gifts that we all are having all the time.
Yeah. So it's almost like a shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Perfect example. Yes, it's definitely that. And we are in an abundant situation. It's all the time.
Yeah, I was watching your keynote that you gave at Google, and I love the way you started it when you just listed all the ways that Google had helped you before even showing up to the workplace. You said, Google helped me find the directions to get here. You had this long, long list of all the things you appreciated from Google before you even got there.
Wow.
And I love that. And you know what? Have you ever heard of the email on this tech theme that Steve Jobs sent to himself a year before he died?
No. Tell me about that.
So it's awesome. So on his deathbed, Steve Jobs sent himself this email. It says, I grow little of the food I eat. I do not make any of my own clothing. I speak a language I did not invent or refine. I did not discover the mathematics I use. I am protected by freedoms and laws I did not conceive. I am moved by music I did not create myself. When I needed medical attention, I was helpless to help myself survive. I did not invent the transistor, the microprocessor, or most of the technology I work with. I love and admire my species, living and dead, and am totally dependent on them for my life and my well-being. It's powerful stuff.
Very powerful. Yeah. That's the point. He got it clearly. And it's so easy to forget when we're looking at something that's wrong, when we're annoyed at a customer service rep or something's not the way we want it. You just got to shift that attention. When I teach an improv class, the very first class, I get them all in the room and I say, okay, everybody stand up, shake out and everything. And I want to tell you what the most important thing that you need to learn about improv or about this class, the most important thing is it's not about you. You probably think it is. Of course it's about me. I'm coming here to learn how to improv. No, it's not about you. Once you find that redirection of your attention onto those things that Steve Jobs noticed, keep noticing them, and they'll help you in life, help you get to the fourth A.
It's perfect transition. So the fourth A, action.
Action. It's doing what needs to be done. So after we pay attention to life, we accept it, we appreciate all the help we're getting, and now what do I do? What's my role in this? And I think it's often, in one sense, as simple as asking yourself the question, what needs to be done? And that's a little different from what I want to do or what I'd like to do. But I'm here, I often wonder, I'm 82 years old now, so I'm thinking, what on earth am I still around for? What needs to be done? Well, one of my recent ahas has been, as I'm growing older, generosity. It seems to me that what is always in good form is kindness and giving to others, so that we're not just holding on to things for ourselves. In fact, we know that it's not the things in our life that are going to make us happy, but it's the relationships and the way that we can support one another. So improvisers, by nature, if you get this improv mindset going, tend to be generous and be interested in helping others. I think one of the maxims is take care of each other. I think that's part of what we're here to do. And at different stages in our life, taking care of each other, if you're a young parent, means a lot of attention to all the things the child needs. And right now, I've part of my attention's on this new cat, and she's never sat on my desk before, so I'm very honored today. I think she's treating me to her kindness.
I love what you said about taking care of each other, because it's fitting this theme, I think, of all four so far, which is taking this pressure off of yourself. If you're so busy focusing on helping others and being there for others and making others look good, then you don't really have time to think about all the problems going on inside your head that are mostly meaningless. And it brings me back to when we were doing improv, and we were taught that we shouldn't worry about making mistakes because the person on the receiving end is there to support you and to work with whatever you give them, and vice versa. So we shouldn't worry about their mistakes or our mistakes. We're all just helping each other and in this team effort. And I just love taking that mindset into everyday life, because it's not just on the improv.
Which is a maxim, right, Patricia?
Right. Make mistakes, please. Yeah, it's exactly.
Make mistakes, please, which is so powerful. Can we talk about that a little bit? What your take is?
Yeah. Well, the take is it's a command to throw yourself into life. We often don't do something for fear that we can't do it well, or we won't succeed, or I'm not good enough. I think I had a sign on my wall in the class: if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying anything. You're not doing anything. So we have, and that was a hard one for Stanford students to hear also. Be average and make mistakes is probably intuitive, but good Lord, that's something, if you realize, mistake, I can probably learn something from it, or I've gotten information. A mistake is information about something. So it can give you a way of going in a different direction. Or
I love this so much because it's not only applicable to acting, right? In our world of business and creative content on social media, that's what it's all about too. We need to constantly be experimenting and putting things out there. And exactly like you said, rather than think about them even as mistakes, reframe them as just these are experiments that are giving us data, and then we're going to use that data and make better decisions as we keep going forward. But I think that what a lot of us do is get caught in our head and say, I don't want to make a mistake, and have other people think some certain way about me.
I also love this question that you pose in the book, speaking of mistakes, where you ask the reader, what would you do if you knew you would not fail? Because so many times in life, we make our decisions based in this fear of failure. And we were guilty of that for so long. We were in jobs that we really didn't like. We were so terrified to quit our jobs and take this leap of faith into entrepreneurship. And we spent years not living up to our true potential because we were living in that fear. But to ask yourself that question, what would you do if you knew you would not fail, is such a powerful question, because it cuts right through that fear and gets you to your truth without fear.
Absolutely. And you both are great examples of this. I mean, to do what you're doing, you're model improvisers. That you're living that, and each day as you find new ways and open yourself and do all the things we've been talking about. So it's very impressive, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really mean it when we say your book has really transformed the way we live our lives, and more specifically, our relationship as brothers and business partners. Because Mike and I actually spend more time with each other than we do with our own wives at home, right? Because we work together. And so many of these improv principles have really transformed how we work together. And I have to say, we're more creative, we're more kind to each other. And I want to just say thank you again for putting this wisdom out into the world. So thank you.
You're welcome. That delights me. That makes my life be worthwhile, that the ideas in the book are coming round and going round. And thank you.
That leads us to one final question for you. Let's keep the wisdom spreading even further. For whoever is watching or listening to this right now, what would you leave them with as one final actionable piece of improv wisdom that they can do today? Is there anything that they can do today to put any of the improv wisdom into practice?
Yeah. I once, we were traveling, and we were on the little bus that takes you back and forth from the airport to the whatnot. And I noticed that the driver would pull over, get out, take the bags out. People would get on. He'd check that everybody was there and get back on and drive on. And then do it again and again and again. And I watched it, how skillfully he was doing that. And so when we got out and got our bags and gave him a tip, I just said, "You're doing a really remarkable job. This is a complex thing with the traffic and all the people. I really want to thank you for that. You're really doing a good job." And the man stopped, and I thought he was about to cry, because I don't think anybody had ever noticed the work that he did and commented on. So I want to give you the assignment to look to see what other people are doing and find a way to appreciate them, and then act on it by saying something.
I just got the chills. That's a beautiful, beautiful way to end this conversation.
That's beautiful and very practical. And like we said before, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and now our audience. Hopefully we can get it to spread far and wide and touch as many lives as possible, because this is wisdom that needs to be heard. So thank you, Patricia.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's been an honor being here.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end.
If you like this episode of BSU, you'll probably also like this one right here. So give it a click. Yeah, just click it. All right. See you next time. Peace.